This is Your Own Best Company, a podcast for people who love to work alone. Hey everybody, Franklin Taggart here. Before we jump into this interview with Daphne Jones, I just wanted to mention that there were some unforeseen technical difficulties with my microphone in this interview that we didn't pick up on until the edit stage. So apologies for the quality of the sound on my microphone. I hope it's corrected now, but I hope you'll enjoy this interview with Daphne, the smart money chick Jones. Thanks. Hey there, everybody. Franklin Taggart here. This is Your Own Best Company, and this is a podcast for people who love working alone. I am one of you. You are one of me. And I'm really excited to bring a guest to you today that I've just recently met for the first time and found some of the things that we've talked about fascinating. And I think that you're going to find them equally fascinating too. She's got her finger on the pulse of things like blockchain, Bitcoin, NFTs, Web 3.0, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And she also hosts a podcast called Grown Women, Growing Wealth. Some of you will remember that as the podcast that is co-hosted by another guest that we just recently had, Roberta Ravella. So I want to welcome Daphne, the smart money chick Jones, to the show. Hello, Daphne. How are you this morning?
Hey, Franklin. How you doing? It's great to be
here. I guess it's afternoon, isn't it?
Yes, it is here. Here in the
well, it's afternoon
part
here
of the
too.
US.
We're not that far apart. So how are things going over in Texas?
It's going pretty good. We finally got some rain.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, because this has
cool
been
things down a little bit.
Oh yes, but this has been the hottest June on record for this part, for my part of Texas. I'm down here on the southeast end, Houston. So.
And it already gets hot, so that that tells you something, doesn't it? So I'm really interested in your story. You've got a whole bunch of waves and twists and turns and kind of really there are some little nooks and crannies and surprises that I think people are going to find interesting. Now, the first one that I wanted to start with is that you are a Marine Corps veteran.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Now, how did that happen?
Tomboy growing up.
Yeah.
Just loved, running around outside, playing sports, did a little shooting. And coming out of high school, it just fit. I did want to go to college, but, working class parents, how's that going to be paid for and things like that. So I gave college a shot at first, see how it was going. And I got into that loan thing, and I knew that was not a smart thing to do, the constant borrowing. Even though at that time, I'm showing my age, it was only about 1% to borrow. And it was far, far cheaper to go to school back then.
Yeah.
I paid about $200 for a class at a 4-year university. So that kind of tells you how old I am.
That was a while back.
And it was there, and I said, you know what, I'm going. And, signed on a dotted line, and then they send you to Parris Island. You won't volunteer again.
Yeah, isn't that right? So how long were you in?
Total of 8 years.
Okay, so you went far.
Yeah. I did 4 enlisted, and then I earned a commission, and I did another 4. So I was a captain when I got out. So.
Wow, very good. Captain Jones, I love that.
Yes, that was me.
So after you got out of the Corps, you kind of had some different things going on. Where did you land after you got out?
We came back to Houston, and my specialty was communications in the Corps. Well, you name it. If it had a wire or electrodes, they kind of threw it under our bailiwick. So I came back to Houston, and I was picked up by Time Warner Cable. I don't think they exist anymore. And I project managed the build out for their high-speed internet product. They called it Roadrunner back then.
Yeah.
So that was the first high-speed I know to hit Texas, actually. AT&T was there, but they were out in the suburbs. We were urban. Yeah. So that that was a lot of fun, actually. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. Because it was a new thing, and it was some of the stuff I loved, because I've always loved helping people learn new things. So we had to teach the cable guys how to deal with digital.
Yeah.
Because the signal, one is analog and then one is digital. And high speed, so we are talking, what, 25 years ago? Was awesome. You know, that, because we were coming off a dial-up, remember?
Exciting time.
AOL was king.
Was this DSL or was this something else?
No, this was high speed over cable.
Because
DSL was over AT&T over copper wiring.
That's right.
And
so was this optic? Was this fiber optic?
From to the node to the part in the back of the house,
it
was optic. But once you got to the back of the house, at that point the technology didn't exist to get fiber into the house. So it still came over the old coax cables.
Yeah.
Which, as I said, it was an adventure learning to make that work, learning to make those two things talk. So it was, the toughest part was that the most cost intensive for the company was you had to upgrade the cable inside the houses, because something that'll take an analog picture totally different when you start putting the weight on it of digital. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So you were right on the front edge of that really cool technological development when high speed was becoming much more available.
Oh yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
It was fun.
You had all types of friends and relatives coming out of the woodwork. Everybody wanted to get online, and it was great working with the people who put the service out too. That was, because it's always exciting to do something new, even though it was a lot of work. So.
Now, how did you find your way into life insurance?
Was at Time Warner for a bit. Then it went through some restructuring because, as I said, I think technically it no longer exists.
Well, the AOL bought them, or they merged with AOL, and then
that was a story of corporate incompetence you wouldn't believe.
Yeah,
being there for that merger, because I was there still at that merger. It was two worlds that collided.
Yeah,
and it didn't end well for either one of them. Because I think in the end, that on the business side, that brought down AOL.
Well, they were
not to mention
having a hard time anyway.
They were behemoth, and they didn't listen. They were not nimble.
Yeah,
they were not nimble at all. There was I stopped working for a bit because I became pretty ill. Couldn't work for a few years, and when you come back and you're looking for a job in your 40s. So good.
I get it.
Not so good. And I was just sitting there one day trying to explain my value to a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? We're going to have to find, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to have to figure out something else. And I had started reading a lot of books about money, because for those of us that have always worked, had a job, right? And you stop that paycheck, you found out that you're swimming naked, as most people who trade time for dollars are. They're swimming naked. They just don't know it. You get a mulligan every 2 weeks, which is your paycheck. And that covers up bad decisions and wastefulness and things of that nature. And I found out what a great tool life insurance was, and I wanted to tell other people about it.
Yeah. What did you discover about life insurance that really turned you on?
Well, one thing, it has awesome tax benefits, and it has some great legal protections. On the face of it, okay, it is protection in the event of death. It gives money to those you care about, which is actually the best thing about it. But it's a great way to grow wealth that's protected. Depending on what type you get, the interest is guaranteed, or you could have it fluctuate a bit within mutual funds. I wouldn't suggest variable. I am not giving financial advice.
Yes.
Wouldn't suggest variable that's in the market. But it's a great way to protect wealth for future generations. It's a great way to generate wealth for yourself. You can There are ways that you can structure life insurance policies where you can fund business ventures. And again, all money's coming out of there tax-free. It is very private. No one knows what you're doing with your life insurance policy except you and the life insurance company. And that veil can't be pierced. So as I said, the tax benefits, the actual privacy protections, what it can do for you, how you can pass it around, things of that nature. Life insurance it's pretty powerful.
So was that time the real beginning for you of educating yourself financially, or had you done some before that? Has money always been something that you've been interested in learning about?
No. It all started with the illness. It was like a tsunami. I became unable to work. 2008 hit, and also the husband got laid off. So you're a married person.
Yeah.
So imagine all flows of income went away. And again, that's when you find out you're swimming naked.
At the same time that you were going through that,
right.
I was going through the same kind of thing myself. Yeah.
Right. And what you find out is that many of us thought we were middle class. Well, actually, again, in my studies, middle class is actually where if, say, some mainstream of income stopped, you still can survive for a time period, actually into a year, more than a year or so, whether it be through you living off investments and things of this nature. That's what was meant by middle class. What actually is going on in the U.S. is that you have a well-paid working class. Because once that particular income stops work, whether it be through layoff, death, what have you, you got a problem.
Yeah.
As they say, the vast majority of the U.S. is living paycheck to paycheck. And the thing I discovered in life insurance and then also just reading and talking to people, it doesn't matter how big that paycheck is. Yeah. The guy that bumps garbage that's making maybe $42,000 a year, he's living paycheck to paycheck. The cardiologist that's making 12 times as much as he is, he's also living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know. Talking to Roberta, I learned quite a bit because she was in mortgage business.
Yeah,
and she was in mortgage business, Northern Virginia, and she was like, "Yeah, you'd be surprised."
Oh yeah,
they're making oodles, what we would consider oodles of money.
Yeah,
and they can't miss. They're in trouble also.
Still bumping it right to the edge, right?
Oh yeah.
So it kind of all started then as you started to educate yourself and learn and sell life insurance and educate people about life insurance. You started to find that growing wealth was something that you were passionate about, and ever since then you've been kind of on a journey of discovery of all of the different ways that wealth can be put together. Talk to me a little bit about what your journey has been like since you left the insurance world.
Well, the pandemic hit, and I was already playing around with YouTube as a way to get information out about life insurance that wasn't salesy, where people would want to listen to it. So it was more of a teaching moment. Hey, these are the parts of a life insurance policy and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And Roberta and I were, right before the earth shut down, we were in Las Vegas at an awesome conference. And she floated the idea of doing a podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, that's more than the notion there, best buddy. And stayed at it. And so we come back, and about 2 weeks later, that's when it all shut down.
Yeah.
We got back in that last week of February, and then remember March, it was like boom.
Yeah.
So you're still trying to see clients via Zoom, and the podcast kicked off. And at that point, I began to do more the reading because you had time now.
Yeah.
So there started being more reading, and I'd heard about this thing, Bitcoin, and I'd always heard about it out there because I still had tech friends. And I began looking at the structure of it, and I saw what was going on with governmental policy as far as money was concerned. And it worried me, because particularly with the concept of the shutdown, that really worried me. Because, okay, in our system, English, basically, it's English common law. If you cause something, I have to reimburse you. If I cause you, if I damage your property or something you're doing, I have to make whole the problem I caused.
Yeah.
So the government told me and everybody else, you can't go to work. You can't go out there and meet clients. You got to close down your bar. They shut it down.
Yeah.
So that means you have to make these things whole. And that means money, and you're going to have to print money.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, we're already printing quite a bit because we were going through quantitative easing. I won't go down the rabbit hole, but I knew it was only going to get worse.
Yeah.
And how do you hedge against this? Because I'm not Nostradamus, but what we're going through right now, if you just paid attention in Econ 102, the second part, you knew this was coming. You knew this one was coming. The crazy prices, and then we throw in some other stuff, some other choices that were made about like energy and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Again, you get a tsunami. It all comes together.
So here you are now.
Yes.
And you have basically stepped into the role of becoming a financial educator. Now, who are the people that you're working with primarily right now in that education?
Well, primarily I speak to women like myself, Gen X women.
Yeah.
One, because I am one. And two, our financial requirements are a bit different than the men our age.
In what ways?
In what ways? Well, one, for the most part, women are a bit more risk adverse. Yeah. Also, again, the primary builder of wealth in this country is work. Well, women's work life is subject to more interruption than a guy's work life. Your work life is usually interrupted by two things. You got laid off / fired. Pick one. You got sick. That's it. Those are the only two things that stop guys. Oh, and then we got the few that go to jail. But those are the three things that interfere with men's ability to earn a living.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys do your best to avoid that. The functional among you do your best to avoid those things.
Right.
Well, with women, it's quite a few things, and they last much longer. There's childbirth. That's the big thing. The children, having kids, raising them. Because even in a marriage, optimum way to have kids is to be married. Kids fall on mom. And in many cases, women leave or they mommy track. So you start having a disparity of the amount of income that's generated. So that affects the amount of income that's saved or that you have the ability to do things with. Also, if there comes a time point where someone has to be cared for because they have special needs, whether it's the child she's had, her parents, that favorite auntie has gotten older, again, that tends to fall to women. So one or two things happens. The type of work she does cuts back, or hours at work, or she actually stops working. And so you have these holes, and you become either dependent on the husband or something of that nature. So your ability to earn, your earning ability is affected.
Do you find that the expenses related to children fall toward the women as well?
Well, if she's single, yes, of course. Childcare.
But even if she's working, like if she's having to, if she's going back to work, mm-hmm. and she's still in that marriage, but she's going back to work, do you find that the women in those situations are the ones that end up being responsible for the child care?
They tend to be responsible for finding it.
Yeah.
And depending on how the two individuals in the marriage structure their income, do they work together? Is there a straight 50-50 split? Is one person more responsible for these type of areas or the other one? So I couldn't give a blanket statement of yes, they're responsible.
Yeah.
but there's an involvement. I mean, I know just from my anecdotally what happened to my career after I had my son.
Yeah.
You don't have the ability because again, in many cases you're working, your employer wants you there.
Yeah.
And they want you there how they want you there. And then particularly when you start stepping into, as you make more money, there's a reason they give you more money. They
Yeah.
want more access. You start carrying a pager, there's a cell phone. Uh, your boss expects you to have read the email when you show up Monday morning.
Yeah.
You know, if he sent an email, it's never said out loud, but they quite frankly expect you to have read it
Yeah.
when you get to work and get started on things. And having a family, I will tell you, having the family stuff falls harder on the wife than it does on the husband. It just does.
Yeah. Well,
But then too,
my curiosity about that question
mm-hmm,
comes from that I do some work with the local small business development center.
mm-hmm,
And a fairly significant number of people that I've worked with there are women who they'd had children and then they tried to go back into the workforce. But when they tried to re-enter the workforce, the amount that they were being paid didn't offset the cost of the child care expenses. And so
yes,
they ended up coming back home because it was
mm-hmm,
less expensive for them to stay home at that point. And what they would end up doing is coming to us and saying, I need to find a way to generate income. And I'm thinking about doing a small business, but I have no idea what to do or where to
exactly.
start. So I was just curious if you've seen that pattern as well.
Well, yes, yes. You have, as I said, the cost of childcare.
Yeah,
It's always it's never been inexpensive.
right.
And the more, say the higher the ratio, the lower the ratio you want between your kids and their caregiver, say in home versus daycare,
Yeah,
or maybe even bringing somebody into the house. Those costs are there. And so is it really worth what you're spending to go back to work?
yeah,
And then you have situations where, again, if you're the only one, you have to go back to work and figure it out.
oh yeah, right.
And that leads back into life insurance. And how money, the interest of just how money affects everything. It affects the level of education you're going to receive, how your children are going to grow up,
Yeah,
and even their future trajectory. Because a good example is home ownership. If you were able to acquire a home, it's a very good chance that your offspring are going to be homeowners. Even, I know there's the big doom and gloom, as always. Oh, they'll never be. Sure they will. Sure they will. Sure they will. Your ability that you finish college. So again, income plays a part in that. So what you eat, I mean, where are you living? Are you able to make regular doctor's visits? So that's the part that money plays.
yeah, making sure that all of those bases are covered, and then on top of that, growing wealth
Right. That's the tough part.
for the other reasons,
Right.
the more self-actualization goals and things like that that people have of wanting to be more free, more independent, more autonomous, more flexible, all of those things, right?
Yes. Well, the tough part about the wealth growing is that you get lifestyle creep.
Yeah.
And
Talk about that a little bit. What does the lifestyle creep look like?
well, as you make more money, you do more things with money that are liabilities. As the
Yeah.
difference between liability and the asset, liabilities take money out of your pocket, asset puts money in your pocket.
Yeah.
So often what happens, you go from living in that apartment with 3 roommates to you get your own apartment, and it's usually
Yeah.
a nicer one. How much can I afford to spend? Not other things. So you start buying more things, taking
Yeah.
better trips. You go to better restaurants. Your lifestyle creep. You
Yeah.
start bringing credit into your life because now you can get credit. And you're putting money into things that don't put money back into your pocket, whether it be currently or even in the future.
Yeah. Do you find, I mean, in situations like that, and it's like, I know that when we don't have a lot of money, that you do have to plan on how you spend. It's like if you don't plan on how you spend, you're not going to be able to cover the basis at all. But do you find when people start to make more money that they loosen up that discipline and that planning around their spending?
Yes, it's the lifestyle creep.
Yeah.
It's the lifestyle creep. It's there's more money there, so you decide to do more things. And rarely at the beginning of making more money do you think about ways to have your money work for you. That tends to come later. That tends to come in the late 30s, early 40s. And usually it's because you've seen something happen. You're watching a parent's age or something of that nature that's happened. But the best time to think of it is, okay, in your 20s, but most of us don't.
Going back to your illness, I mean, was that the time that you really realized that that you needed to have another plan besides just working from paycheck to paycheck? Was that really the breaking point for you?
Yes. There was the additional streams of income that didn't necessarily require me to be there. There was the thought that any dollars created, regardless of source, they had to make other dollars.
Yeah.
That they had to earn for themselves. And then you try to plug up the holes. Consumer debt is usually the biggest.
Yeah.
It's one thing to borrow money to pay for a rental property that produces cash, or that you're purchasing stock or something of this nature.
Yeah.
Something as part of an investment mix. But you notice, as I said, that having a job, particularly a well-paying one, it's the mulligan. It fixes it every 2 weeks.
So when you don't have that, then if you have a mulligan, it's going to be coming out of your back end, isn't it?
Right.
When you started to learn about life insurance and you started to sell life insurance, what were your first steps as far as becoming an investor, or what were your first steps in terms of building wealth for yourself?
Well, I wanted to find ways to get the dollars working, and then to keep most of the dollars working. So I wanted to avoid fees as much as possible.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of self-investment apps. One of the first ones that started allowing you to buy fractional stocks. And then you should start taking advantage of what is available for you. Being a business owner, we can do certain types of retirement plans and things of that nature that lower taxes, as well as can start generating interest for retirement. And now I call it an investment mix. So it's something that you can automate as much as possible.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take you watching it all day. Most people don't want to be a day trader. You have day traders, sure.
Yeah.
But most folks don't want to do that.
That's true.
Or do options or things of that nature. So particularly what I tell people is, one, an incumbent upon this is living below your means.
Yeah.
So there has to be a certain amount of liquidity. One is fund your retirement account to its maximum legal limit.
Yeah.
One is fund the retirement account. Two is involve yourself with some dividend producing stocks.
Yeah.
And then put it on automatic drip where they reinvest the dividends you receive, because dividends, depending on what you purchase, they're paid quarterly or every 6 months or every year.
Right.
Put those back in there. And the second thing is get a side hustle.
Yeah.
To increase the income that's coming. I'm certainly not suggesting you leave your job unless that side hustle grows to better income, but get you some type of side hustle there. And I'm always going to, I believe you should own some Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It should be a major part of your portfolio. Not at this point in the life of Bitcoin. Still early in Bitcoin, but the folks that got the best arbitrage were those that came in at the very beginning. 09, 10. impossible to believe people bought Bitcoin for 3 cents.
Yeah, I was going to say the people that bought it for the pennies, those are the ones
Right.
that are rocking it
Or
now,
even the ones that bought it for,
for dollars.
yeah, a few $100. So,
Yeah,
but the reason I say about having Bitcoin as a part of as some things to own, I think future wise, because of the way that that is designed, the value will return. This is
yeah,
not the first time Bitcoin has done a major drop like this,
no,
but there's a fixed amount of Bitcoin that's not going to change, and it allows you quite a bit of freedom in how you move about with Bitcoin. So, and there isn't one person that runs Bitcoin, unlike some of the altcoins like Doge or
yeah.
Solana or Luna or things of that nature. So,
So
so that is the investment mix I'm saying.
the boutique kind of coins, do you see them being a lasting possibility, or do you see them being absorbed into a bigger thing?
I think there's always going to be a newer boutique coin around the corner,
Yeah,
because there's quite a bit of money in them.
and the same thing could be said for NFTs.
I don't own any NFTs.
Yeah,
I know how they're created. That I do think is a bit of a bubble.
yeah, it feels like it.
Right.
Right
So
now,
I
it
don't.
feels like an interesting and exciting thing, but I don't
Right.
see it being a long-term
I don't.
appeal.
I don't see it. So
So tell me a little bit about, yeah, I mean, you've mentioned that with, with Bitcoin, you feel like that since there's not one owner,
mhm.
that it lends itself to a little bit more accountability and stability.
Right.
Even though, markets as they do, they rise and fall.
Right.
What makes you feel so confident that Bitcoin is going to be an investment to watch and to stick with and to really pay attention to?
Well, I'm trying to find another word to describe possessing Bitcoin other than investment.
Yeah,
Because when I say investment, I think of something much like me owning Exxon stock.
yeah,
There's a hope that the stock itself will increase in value. It pays me dividends, physically pays me dividends. So that's an investment. You're buying it. You maybe have some options where you're worried about a stock going. You make money whether it goes down or goes up and things of that nature. So
yeah,
to me, that's an investment. Or me buying a piece of property that I intend to, maybe I'm buying some open lots that at some point I may sell as the city, as something goes or changes around the lot. I put a house or a trailer on it and things of that nature. To me, those are investments. So giving Bitcoin that name, I feel a little hesitant because then individuals purchase it with the plan of, yes, I'm going to get rid of it.
yeah,
And that's not what I'm doing. And that is what, and particularly in the courses I teach individuals to buy and to hold Bitcoin. We talk about safer ways to hold it in what type of wallets and things like that.
yeah,
Because of, like, as I said, because the nature of it, there's going to have to be a comeuppance about particularly all this money printing.
yeah,
And the limit number of Bitcoin, the way you can move it across borders and so forth, because it's not a physical entity. You just
yeah,
you have the keys and access to your Bitcoin. That's why I see it being something that you want to have in the future, that you can that you are going to be moving it back and forth to purchase and acquire goods,
yeah.
higher end goods, because I only see the value. The value is going to go back up, and and that's what it's going to be useful for.
Okay. So if you are going to be buying it, you need to be planning on holding on to it for a long period of time.
Oh, sure, at least 10 years.
Right. Now, at some point, what's the sense in selling it?
That's a toughie. What I see primarily is that as the value of a Bitcoin goes up, because
Yeah.
Bitcoins are broken down into what they call Satoshis. Individuals, they call them stats.
Yeah.
There's 100 million Satoshis that make up one Bitcoin. So those will of course go up in value as the Bitcoin itself goes up, and that those will be traded back and forth.
Okay.
Oh, and when Bitcoin was at its height, at 60K, And you still have entities now where you can, in a sense, store your Bitcoin and borrow against it.
Yeah.
Right. Much like life insurance policies.
Okay.
So that sort of way to get fiat currency, because fiat currency is still what lubricates and moves things.
So it's something of value that you have that could actually be used as collateral.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And then you can break it off in smaller pieces if you wish to trade some of it.
So, in your opinion, with the printed money situation being what it is, you feel a little bit more confident that Bitcoin is a more kind of a sure thing as far as holding your money for over the long haul.
Over the long haul, yes.
Okay.
Because what's going on with what's going on right now, again, not advice, I would work very hard of getting out of consumer debt.
Yeah.
Because that debt is adjustable. And I was introducing some friends of mine to that concept, and they were very surprised. I said, go on the internet and read who you have your card with.
Yeah.
And you will find that they can adjust the rate. Your rate is not locked.
Oh no. And they can bounce it high.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Your rate is not locked in. So to get rid of that consumer debt that's not producing anything for you. But at the same time, don't be afraid to start new ventures either. Don't be afraid to start a side hustle.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about side hustles. It's like when you recommend that people start a side hustle, what do you have in mind when you say that?
Well, it depends on the individual. You can come in and do things that are online, service businesses, things like that. I tell you also what's happening now, physical businesses are doing pretty well, particularly like HVAC, plumbing, the trades, things like that.
Yeah.
You can be a middleman, dispatching. There's quite a few things out there. I know I was watching a YouTube video yesterday about free certifications on the internet.
Yeah.
Like maybe you'd want to get Facebook certified to manage groups. If you've ever been on Fiverr or Indeed, Upwork, you'll see requirements for those. But the great thing about a side hustle is that it helps you actually get your money up, which is always great to increase your income. But also it helps you tax-wise.
In what way does it help you in that area?
Well, for instance, the space, let's say you have an office or you call a room in your home a home office.
Yeah.
That allows you to be able to write off a portion of your property taxes.
Okay.
More than the amount that you're given now. And as a matter of fact, we lost a lot of that with that last tax bill that the Donald passed.
Yeah.
And there's so many things you get to write off. Trips, dinners, clothing expenses that you normally wouldn't get to write off as a teacher. But if you're doing certain other things, you get to write off dry cleaning and trips and things of this nature. So because that's the way the tax code is set up. It's set up to help business people.
Yeah. One of the things that I work with people on a lot is setting up information products that ultimately can be automated so that they don't have to manage them so much.
Right.
And that's a lucrative side hustle for those folks who have knowledge that they love to share. Mm-hmm. But I know that we live in a world where side hustles are more and more common.
Right.
And I know some people that are just like, they're living on 3 different gig, things that they put together.
Sure.
And they're doing okay. I don't think they're getting rich from what they're doing, but they're comfortable. And they seem to like the variety, and they like to be able to move around. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at the clock now, and this time has flown by, Daphne. We've covered a lot of ground in that time. I'm really curious. I know that you've got some classes coming up. Do you mind telling people about those?
Sure. I've got I call it Bitcoin Made Easy. It's a master class that I'm giving July 19th. It's going to be live and interactive.
Okay.
You can get there by going to my website, thesmartmoneychick.com,
Yeah.
/ landing dash page.
Okay.
I know it's real original, but you can go there and get information and join us there. And also you can check out, I've got a Bitcoin focused podcast, Bitcoin Jarhead.
Okay.
So I've just got the newest episodes up there. And then as always, you can catch me and Roberta together on Growing Women, Growing Wealth.
Very good. Well, you're doing some exciting work, and it sounds like that it's very rewarding for you as well.
Oh, yes, it is. I'm having a great time.
Excellent. Well, folks, my guest for this show has been Daphne, the Smart Money Chick Jones, and I'm really, really happy that we've been introduced, Daphne. I've enjoyed our conversations a lot, and one of the things that I need to let people know is that you and I can talk tech,
Yeah.
and that's always fun too. So
Always. Hey, but thanks for having me.
it's been my pleasure. And folks, get in touch with Daphne with your money questions, with your investment questions, with your wealth growing questions, and especially if you want to know about blockchain, Bitcoin, and things like that. Thanks for listening to Your Own Best Company. If you enjoyed the show, would you do me a favor and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast host? If you really love it, leave me a review or share it with your circles. If you feel like your career is reaching a dead end, or you're feeling a deep sense of dissatisfaction in your work right now, I help people discover their gifts and then find or create new opportunities that are the best fit for their talent, experience, and lifestyle. Email me at coaching@franklintaggart.com for more information. I also help people start, finish, and launch creative projects, and I offer an ongoing marketing mastermind for solopreneurs and freelancers. More information on these programs and services can be found at franklintaggart.com. Thanks again for spending this time with me.